What is up, gang? It is I, Carlton Flowers, your crypto pro.
Yay!
And it is time for an update on the price action with Kaspa. All right, so many of you all have been asking me if we can confirm that there has been a change in direction, a pivot with the upward trending trading channel into a downward trending trading channel. And so we're going to take an unrehearsed look at the chart and just break it down and see if we can make some sense of it and figure out where it's going to go next. Now, of course, this is definitely not financial advice. Okay, and here lately I've noticed that each of the last few videos I've been posting, there's some folks that have been saying something in the comments which I need to bring up. Even though that I make it clear that this is not financial advice, that I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I a promoter of any project, we still got the smart folks that say, thanks for the financial advice. Now, let me tell you what, that's not funny, it's not cute, and it's not good to post that on people's videos on YouTube because you can get people into trouble. And if you're trying to lure me into saying something back to you like you're welcome and glad to provide you with such advice, I'm not going to do that. We cannot do that unless you are a licensed financial advisor, which I am not. So if you do post a comment saying thank you for the financial advice, I'm going to delete the comment and possibly report you because I don't want anyone to mess it up for everybody else. Now, I hold Kaspa. I'm a swing trader. I've been buying and selling Kaspa for the last couple of months. And I am in this for the long term and trying to make gains so that I can profit and make an income from swing trading the projects that I think are the most stable and have the potential for moving up. I also want to eventually become a Kaspa, what is the word for it? I want to set up the ability to be a merchant to sell services and charge in Kaspa because this looks like it's a pretty good, useful cryptocurrency for the purposes of transacting. So that's why I am here. So just wanted to clear that up and let you know that we're just here to call the action and it's not financial advice. So get that straight and do not post that in the comments. All right. Now, since we had the pivot from this point after the high, we had this all-time high that occurred in this area. Oops, let's get a circle there. In this area right here. And we were waiting for confirmation to say, okay, we have changed the trend from this very strong upward channel to a downward channel, a corrective channel. And we knew that eventually that this would happen. So we were flirting around with coming all the way up to the 1 cent point. We didn't quite make it. And now it looks like we are definitely in a downward trending trading channel. So how did we determine that? First of all, we had this rising baseline here. And when we violated that baseline and bounced off of the 50 EMA and started to move back up, we noticed that we started posting lower highs. So after we closed 2 candles here on the 4-hour below the blue baseline, that was kind of confirmation to me, even though that was an early call, it was confirmation that we were going to reverse direction. We also see that the 50 EMA has curled over and it's trending slightly downward, where the 200 EMA, which is a longer moving average, it's still on the upward trend, but it's probably going to start to curl over and move down also if we continue posting lower highs. So let's just look at these lower highs. Here was our all-time high right here, and then we had a lower high here, trended down, and then when we touched on the 50 here, it was the new low point that we would establish a baseline for the downward trend. So when we touched here, bounced up and then kind of came close to it here, even though we hit a green wick that went below this red line, this kind of confirms that we are in this downward trend, and this darker red line is the baseline. Now, I also had this upper trend line here that was kind of coinciding with the 50 EMA, but then we noticed that we poked through it and we went above. And so what I did, I just cloned this line and made a parallel line up above it. We have this high point here, which is a lower high in relation to the all-time high and the next high point here. And so that kind of established another upper boundary. But then we noticed here that we popped out of that line and went above it. But then the 50 EMA came in and rejected price right here somewhere around the 11th of December. And now we're just coiling around. Here we see that price is trying to move back up to the thick of this cluster on the VPVR, which is the volume profile visible range. This tells you how much volume happens at a particular price point instead of at a particular time, which is what these bars do down here on the histogram. Okay, so the point of control is right here. This is the biggest volume node, and those big volume nodes tend to attract the price. So we're bouncing up, and it looks like we may come up and test this 50 EMA line again. And at this point, we'll probably reject, even if we make it up there, because we see that the stochastic is about to cross over, which means that the direction will start to head downward. There's a little bit of downward pressure. And when we look at the stochastic peaks overall, let's look and see what the price returns for each peak. Here's a peak here, and we had this all-time high. On the next peak, we had another all-time high. And then we kind of wobbled around, went to a low point here, a double bottom on the stochastic, which coincides with this touch on the baseline and the next touch on the baseline. So then at the next stochastic peak, we returned a price here at the upper end of the trading channel, which is a lower high. So on the next peak, which is descending, notice how these peaks are descending. We kind of popped up a little bit, rejected at the 50 EMA, and then start to move down again. Notice that since the all-time high, the histogram and the oscillators on the MACD also gave us clues. At this double peak here, we started to trend downward, and notice the printing of the red bars on the histogram throughout this period. And then we poked our head back up, had a peak right there where the histogram bars go from solid green to light green, which denotes downward movement. The general trend here with the oscillators on the MACD is downward. So here's a peak, there's a lower peak, a lower peak, and now it looks like we're trying to cross over bullish here, but that's probably not going to hold. The overall direction is down. We also notice that the distance away from the zero line is on the same pathway of decrease as opposed to the price peak. So with this cluster here, there's your all-time high. With this cluster here, we had a peak, lower high. And then notice how these are getting smaller and smaller as time goes on. So according to the 4-hour chart, where could we go from here? Let's scrunch this down a little bit, pull in a little bit more price history, and we see these volume nodes sticking out. So right now, if we'll do a bearish and a bullish. So with the bullish scenario, if we touch down on this 200 EMA, we could pop back up to this volume node or this one up above for a small move upwards. Or with the bearish, we could get rejected and fall below the 200 EMA, which would get us pointing towards this volume node or the small one that sticks out at about 0.005, or going downstairs to this big node, okay, which is somewhere around 0.004. So we'll have to wait and see what can happen. I would say maybe 60% chance that we continue the downward direction, then popping back up. So can we move up from here? Sure, we could. But chances are the probability is leaning towards heading further south. And the reason is we see the overall direction since the all-time high is going downward. So even though we jumped up above this upper limit here, we're still printing lower highs. So that's what we're looking like on the 4-hour. Now let's jump to the 1-day chart. Here is the 1-day. Let's get some price history in here so we can get a good determination. And we see our volume node sticking out here on the right side of the chart. So right now, we're still lining up where we're flopping around up and down around this big volume node. And then we have this next one sticking out here. And that happens to be at a price of 0.0065-ish. Now, if we continue the southward direction and we see that, okay, looking at the stochastic, we are in a bearish trend. After this peak, we have continued all the way down, looking like we're going to make a full cycle. And once and twice, we had a bullish crossover that unfurled, and we continue the downward direction. Now, you'll notice that the fast line, the blue, and the slow line, the orange, are divergent. They're opening up, and that says momentum is continuing down here into oversold territory. So that tells me the chances of moving to one of these upper volume nodes is probably weak. And the chances of falling off this major node right here are pretty strong. So if this continues down into the oversold territory, we're probably going to head downstairs to this big volume node sticking out here where we will test support. Now, what does the MACD tell us? Well, the oscillators are solidly in a bearish movement, where we have a good gap between the fast and the slow line. And even though the histogram is moving back and forth between solid red and light red, the overall momentum is downward. Right now, the evidence says that this will continue downward as we'll probably progress down towards the zero line. And then we'll have to see. Once we come fully down to the bottom here, we could hit another cycle up, but it could still be within an overall downtrend. Now, you'll notice some blue lines that I have up here on the chart. Let's just extend them out. And what these light blue lines indicate are previous support and resistance areas. Whoops, let's got the wrong line there. This is the blue one that we want right here. So if we pull this out, this can kind of tell us some levels where we had previous support and previous resistance. And then we have this lower line that is sitting down here that is just above this peak volume node. So if we continue to go downward, okay, we will look to see what happens before we get to this solid blue line here. So if we move all the way down to this baseline, is it going to be support and bounce off and try to move higher? Or will it fail, go through the line, and line up with this point of control price? Now, if that holds, it could be moving up for another uptrend. If it does not hold, of course, we've got this volume node that's down here all the way in the area of the 0.0027 where this volume node sticks out here. Now, if we continue all the way down there, I'm probably going to look to accumulate and pick up more. I've rounded off my pile at a clean 100,000. I've been buying and selling. You can see some of my points I had sold here. We moved up, then I bought back again, and I'm doing a little bit of buying and selling while we're bouncing in this range. And if we fail this, I'll hold my bag and wait so I can dollar cost average and maybe bring my average down to about 0.004. That would be great for me. And then we'll just have to wait and see how long this bear market drags on. Will it be 6 months or more? Possibly. What will the next bull market bring? I don't know. Some are saying that the next bull market or a bullish move with Bitcoin in 2023 could peak out in the 50 to 60,000 range, and then we could correct again. Some are saying that the real bull run will not happen until 2024. That's just speculation, but it's something that we could use to go by as we look to accumulate for the long term. So for me, since I missed out on Bitcoin back when I first discovered it, when it was less than $1 per coin, this might be a second chance to pick up on a project that has good, solid fundamentals, that is something that could bring great profits in the long haul, maybe 5 to 10 years out. That's what I'm looking for with Kaspa, something that I could set aside and forget about it and use it as, say, some retirement income, something like that. So this is pretty clear on this chart. We had the strong movement up right here that coincides with this bullish movement where we stayed up here in the overbought range. We had the all-time high, and then we had a nice solid movement all the way down to the oversold range. And as I always tell people, I buy when we're down here in this area. I sell when we're in this area. Now, I did do a little bit of selling in this area, but now I'm going to wait until we sit solidly down here in this oversold zone and see what the corresponding prices are if we hang out in this area for a long period of time. And this is where I concentrate my buying. Now, once price, say, moves up and does something like this, and this stochastic moves way back up here, this is the area where I sell a little bit. Do I sell the entire bag? Probably not. But when you focus on buying down here in these bottom areas, and you focus on taking profits when you're up in these high areas in the overbought zone, let's make that green, you're usually going to end up ahead if you're a swing trader like me and you work for the long run. So that's what we're looking at right now. And let me know if this is a good, simple explanation. Did you gain something from this? Post it in the comments below. And then there's the phone ringing. But hopefully within the next week or two, I will have a special guest who is very well versed on the Kaspa project. And I would like to ask some basic questions so I can learn more about the project, and so can you. So cross your fingers, and we're going to try to get our good friend Shai to come in, who knows all about this project, and that we can learn. Well, that's all I've got for now, and I would love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to the Crypto Pro channel. I appreciate all of you for being here. And if you would like to donate to the cause to help defray the cost of producing these channels, you can do so with a super thanks, just like my man Carl, who gave a super thanks donation of $10 last week. Thank you, Carl, for your continued support. And with that, we will see you in the next edition. This is Carlton, and I am out.